Hi, my name is Sierra Pearson, and these are my final reflections for the Women in Ministries class at Covenant Theology, spring 2026. So I am going to kind of treat it like I'm having a conversation on my back patio with a friend. So here we go. So when my advisor first told me about this class, I was extremely excited because I'm excited about women in ministry and ministry to women. I liked that phrase that was used in the class, ministry to women. I am part of a church plant that planted in 2021. So we're coming up on our 5th year. We do not have like an established structured ministry to women, but this has kind of spurred me to talk to our pastors and to try to move forward in this direction in a way that fits the values and mission of the church that I'm a part of. I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Have been here for about 14 years. And yeah, I love this city and I love the work that our church, Waypoint Church, is doing. So first, I just wanted to talk through some of the things that really were key takeaways for me from both the content that we had to do, that we had to absorb, read through, listen to before the actual in-person class, and then what I learned from the in-person class as well. So a couple of the resources that we had to kind of absorb. I really, really enjoyed the Journeywomen podcast with Mary Wilson Hannah and talking about women's roles in the church. I just thought that was really well laid out and thought through. I appreciated her perspective on women, and I loved that she was a single woman doing ministry in her context, because I feel like sometimes there can be this kind of expectation that if you're going to be in ministry, you have to be married, or you have to be the pastor's wife, or you have to have kids. And it's not true. Like, women in all walks of life are super important for ministry to women, because you're going to have single women. You're going to have women in different walks in your ministry. I also really enjoyed Kathy Keller's little booklet, Jesus, Justice, and Gender Roles. One of the quotes that really stood out to me was, anything that an unordained man is allowed to do, a woman is also allowed to do. And I love that how our church already operates this way. Our pastors already believe this in so many capacities. So I feel like the stuff about the philosophy of women in the church is not so much the barrier. The barrier for women, ministry to women in our church, is just thinking holistically and fitting it with the vision and the mission of our church. But I still really appreciated that she talked about that, because I think more churches need to hear that we kind of churches, I feel like, fence too much on what women can or cannot do because they're afraid. They're operating out of fear more than operating biblically. I also really enjoyed Michael Kruger's podcast, because I love history and I love how he dived into both the history in Jesus's ministry, but also in the early church, and how women were so involved and how Jesus valued women. About culture, I thought the many colors culture for a changing church, just talking about context and culture, was eye-opening for me. I thought it was really interesting how the Industrial Revolution and caused industry and economy to move outside of the home into factories, and men's physical presence at home dropped significantly after the Industrial Revolution, which isolated women from the public sphere at home. They had less responsibility because they weren't working vocationally through the home anymore, because their husbands were going out and working somewhere else. The home being a haven and a refuge because the home became a haven and a refuge instead of a hub of economic and spiritual flourishing. And I think that's also when men no longer saw the need of being the moral and spiritual leaders in the home, because the majority of the time weren't there anymore. So those were really eye-opening for me, and just explaining where culture has shifted as far as women being involved in ministry. I enjoyed the interviews, especially because I'm very relational, I'm very extroverted, and I loved being able to interview the 3 different women that I reached out to. So I actually interviewed my mother-in-law, who just moved here from Minnesota and is attending our church, and she's in her 60s, almost 70s. And I wanted to know, for you who just retired, you moved to a totally new location, what are you looking for? And she wants to serve, she wants to be involved. I also interviewed a women's ministry leader in our city and talked about what they're doing. So I'll add the insights. And then I also interviewed my friend Carrie, who attends our church, and she's in her mid-20s, is married with no kids. And so I just thought that was really helpful to hear her perspective, as well as a younger woman in the church. So some of the things that I gleaned from their answers to the questions were women want to have purpose and impact in their neighborhood, especially women who are out of or who no longer have children in the home and aren't working full-time, like retirees. But then on the flip side, we have women who are busy or have children, and that prevents them from participating regularly in the church. And it even brings up the question, do women see a need for church or for Bible study and for fellowshipping with other women? My friend, who's a women's ministry director here in town, said that she feels like some of the women are bored in their women's ministry. She's struggling with how to encourage them to attend. There's too many outside influences, social media, the internet, that are kind of feeding the need for affirmation or encouragement, but it's also speaking and forming them more than Bible study and being in church is. They see a need for community. Women see a need for community, but are overwhelmed. Childcare and kids ministry is one of the hardest places to fill. And so with that is, if you have a smaller church plant that can't fill the childcare need, women who are in that season of life won't be able to attend unless you think through that. There's often a lack of resources for leaders and volunteers, and they need a support system, which is why they get burnt out. And so then women don't want to serve. Let's see, some of the other things kind of leading into that, the human flourishing in the digital age. And the other podcast, the spiritual formation in AI, was really, really intriguing, because I have grown up as a technological pilgrim, right? I grew up in the 90s into the 2000s. And so I was born when there was no like desktop computers and iPhones. I remember when the iPod came out, and I remember when DVDs came out, and now we no longer use those things. Everything can be streamed from your phone. And now we have the added kind of technology of AI. And I just thought it was really, really good to talk about that, because like I was saying before, it does form us, and it is going to form us, and AI is not going to be neutral. It's going to form us if that becomes the thing that we utilize more often than scripture, and more often than being face to face with other people, with other women. Moving into the article, No Little Women, Equipping All Women in the Household of God. I thought some of her quotes were just really, really just easy. Like they really stood out to me. So one was, everyone in the church needs to be a good theologian. There will be no little women immature in the new heavens and the new earth. Like we need deep biblical literacy for women. And that's something I'm passionate about. I'm not sure I'm passionate about, leading and directing a ministry. I want to get it started and I have vision, but I want to teach. I want to teach biblical literacy to women, and that's why I'm in seminary. But women make up half or more of the church body. And so if we're not ministering to them, we're totally missing out on a good portion of women in the church, and a part of our congregation. Leadership development. I love leadership, and I feel like it has really, really helped my role. And so some of the things that I've done is the TGC Women's Conference, the PCA Women's Leadership Training, reading books. I'm attending a ministry training fellowship right now with other pastors and leaders in our city, and learning from other women, having mentors and having people that I'm connected to, making connections with other women in other churches has been huge for me. I really thought the thriving as a second chair leader was really interesting. I had never really thought about that, but it made a lot of sense. When I am employed at our church right now as a kind of a second chair leader. I'm the music or worship coordinator, worship team coordinator. I help lead worship most Sundays, and I coordinate the team, but I'm really thinking theologically about the songs that we're doing, and I'm working right alongside our pastors to build the liturgy every Sunday. And yeah, there've been some hard moments of like conversation. I actually had to have kind of a difficult conversation with one of my pastors this morning. It went really well, I think, because I was thinking about this stuff is, that there needs to be trust, and I had to be courageous in how I brought up the things that I was feeling, and having unarticulated assumptions, sinking the ship every time. I thought that was huge, that we could have a conversation and not have any unarticulated assumptions anymore, because I was carrying those in my heart. So I do want to grow in leadership, because I tend to kind of hold things closely, and I do sometimes take things personally. And I know that as a leader, you have to let those things go. And I think I'm slowly getting better at that. I am a sensitive person. I'm an emotive person, hence why I'm in music as well. But I want to learn how to balance the two of being someone with just a strong passion and a strong heart for people, but also be able to lead and disappoint people and upset people and work it through, do this conflict resolution. So, that's kind of my main takeaways from the content that we prepared beforehand. Now my main takeaways from the actual class itself. I love the ministry framework, naming what we are accounting for, prioritizing what to say no or not now to, having a framework. And I think I'm working on that with our pastors right now. I had a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago to talk through some of this stuff and start building a framework. I do see the need for gendered spaces. I think we have a mix of both co-ed cohorts and some gendered cohorts. So we have men and women's cohorts. And I think that we're doing really, really good. I thought it was really interesting, the comment I think that Vanessa made during the class. Why do women's books always have to have flowers on them? And that's so true, because men are never going to pick up a woman's Bible study or a book that a woman has written on theology or the Bible if it's got flowers all over it. They're not going to carry it around. Yeah, the talking about the second chair leadership, the quote, "There are no villains in this story." I grew up where everybody makes everybody a villain in my family. Everyone is the bad guy. We talk behind each other's backs. And that just is no way to have a healthy ministry. And I really appreciate our pastors and how they believe this. They believe that there are no villains, and they are willing to ask questions. They're willing to enter into the hard. Sorry about the loud dog in the background. And servant leadership, I thought, is huge as well. And then the tools for your toolbox, understanding your cultural context, having challenge and structure and support. These were all really good things that kind of helped me think more practically about how we could do this. Challenging, inviting women who have never taught before to be a Bible teacher, or to the women's care team, to plan events. I thought the structure, that's kind of what we're working on a little bit now. And we want to provide like easy on-ramps for women, especially starting this fall, to get involved and be involved in Bible study, that kind of thing. And then support, having the emotional and relational climate necessary for learning. I really think this is huge, and I feel like our pastors are doing a really good job of this in trying to bring people together to have that that fellowship and that friendship and support, feeling like you can you have a relationship with the people that you're working with, so you can talk to them and you can bring up hard things. And then discipleship, the K.A. Ellis video, what is discipleship? I thought this was really good. Like, simplify it. I can't meet everyone's needs, and limitations are good. One of our values at our church is eliminate hurry. And one of those things is by saying, like, you know what, I cannot meet your needs right now, but, and you know, I can't be Jesus for you right now. How can I support you in this capacity? Just being honest, and having certain days for specific things. Discipleship requires you to slow down, because it's not systematic. You're working with people who have a heart and feelings, and they're not predictable. So the ongoing questions I have are how to do this well in our context. I want to do it well. I want to keep learning, and I want to keep growing. And however our pastors see me filling the needs in the church, or equipping other women to do so, because I can't do it all and I don't want to. And so I want to work in teams with other women, and I want to get women excited about this. So moving forward, I am just excited to see how, as our church grows, we just particularized, which means like we became like an adult church last month, and are no longer technically a church plant. And so it's like, okay, what does that mean now? I mean, it hasn't changed a whole lot. We're still about the same amount and stuff, but just thinking in the next 3, 5, 10 years, what can this look like, especially as I continue my seminary journey. So super excited. And moving forward is I hope to have just more conversations. I'm going to invite some other women into the conversation with me alongside our pastors. So super excited. Thank you for the class. Thank you for, all these resources and these conversation starters. And I'm just super excited, and hope that showed you what I learned and what I am processing. Thanks.